College of Engineering is established in 1947. The college made most beginning a new engineering college with a single program leading to Bachelor of Engineering in Civil. In the year 1955, the college was renamed as Walchand College of Engineering as a part of new arrangement and turned out to rehabilitation and development of program, mainly funded by state Walchand Hirajan Memorial Trust and the government of Maharashtra. The government appointed as aided ad hoc committee for conducting the college from May 1955. Later, replaced by the Administrative Council in 1956, committee had two more degree programs, Bachelor of Engineering in Mechanical and Bachelor of Engineering in Electrical. Program was in 1955 with civil intake 40 and mechanical intake 20 and electrical 20. Currently, our civil engineering department is having an one UG course, that Bachelor of Civil Engineering, and two PG course, that is a Civil Engineering Structural and Environmental Engineering, environmental specialization. In addition to that, department having a PhD research center also in our department. Quality improvement program, such facilities are available. This is our about our prestigious institute and department. Uh, with this introduction of your institute, I hand over to Mike Madhav Chikodi sir to introduce our today's guest.
Madhav, I think you are on mute.
Unmute, sir.
Am I audible now?
Yes.
Thank you. ISSC President Shantilalji Jain, Honorary Secretary Hemant Wadakar, today's guest speaker Engineer Chetan Raikar, coordinators of all engineering colleges, fellow structural engineers. Friends, today we have with us a few of engineers. Dhairashir Khare Patil from ISSC Pune Center, Chairman, he has agreed to join. And of course, students, are good evening to all of you. Today, I'll be taking a couple of minutes and will introduce today's guest speaker. Friends, just for the information of fellow structural engineers who have joined, we have ISSC student chapters of 5 colleges across India, out of which 4 are in Maharashtra and 1 from Madhya Pradesh, Indore. ISSC has given me the responsibility of formation of chapter and their training through seminars. As per our commitment, we were supposed to deliver 1 lecture in 6 months in every institute. However, friends, COVID-19 pandemic made us to take lecture every month, and that is what we are getting benefit out of it. And virtual platform, it is possible. And since this has started since December 2020, we had a variety of speakers, right from preparation of design basis report of high-rise building to bridge inspection, then to design aspects of PT slab, green concrete, and even my son in US, he's delivered how to process for higher education and job opportunities in US. So friends, we had variety of lectures, and I'm happy to have such process for variety of speakers. Friends, because of this virtual platform, people are available on phone dial and they are responding. Friends, today we are privileged to have Engineer Chetan Raikar. Friends, regarding Structural and Chetan Raikar, I should say सिर्फ नाम ही काफी है. Raikars and in particular Chetan is very renowned personality in the field of construction industry of not only Mumbai but the entire nation and overseas, I should say. My dear students, his biodata is to be remembered by each one of you. Whatever Structural is doing is well explained on their website. You name the field, right from structural consultancy to project management consultancy, architecture to state-of-art material testing library and whatnot. And the most important consultancy in heritage conservation. Structural are into every aspect of civil engineering consultancy. Friends, Chetan Raikar is Chairman and Managing Director of Structural Designers and Consultants Private Limited. The company is having 50 years of legacy and glorious past. He is on the panel of many international and national forums and institutions. Friends, he is a professional structural engineer with a bachelor's degree in civil engineering from Sardar Patel University, and he has done his master's degree in conservation of heritage structure from Heriot-Watt University, Edinburgh, UK. Friends, no doubt he's a remarkable structural engineer, but his true passion lies in conservation of heritage structures. He has achieved great heights of success by crediting some of the notable heritage conservation projects to his credit, making him one of the renowned conservationists. Friends, we have heard of conservation architect, but I think Chetan is the only person who is a structural engineer and conservationist in our country. The company restored structures like CSMT, that is Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj Terminus, earlier VT Station, then Taj Mahal Palace, Mumbai, Gateway of India, near Gateway of India, then Rajwada of Indore, and Mani Mandir. Friends, I have seen his fantastic presentations, and thereafter I requested him to deliver lecture to our students chapter. Friends, I would like to share one experience. After the terror attack on Taj Hotel and what has happened, Tata's invited him to rehabilitate the structure. And friends, he quoted a single rupee for that structure. Do you know? Do you know the reason? Friends, he just shared me. He said by this terror attack, country lost money, and many were injured. And should I charge for my professional service in this project? So the gentleman charged 1 rupee. So you see the generosity. And friends, I know he is a very good human. So what I observed is the gentleman charged 1 rupee as fees to another gentleman, a man who is Ratan Tata, was Ratan Tata. Chetan sir, this is why I am introducing to you. I wanted students to know these things also. Perhaps these things will not be taught or learned anywhere else in their life. So friends, with this biodata, it is obvious Chetan Raikar is a recipient of many awards and rewards. To name few, one of the award was Young Member Award for Professional Achievement in 1999 by American Congress Institute. Then Vocational Awards, Excellence Award by Rotary International District 3140 in 2009. Then Maharashtra's Kohinoor Award in March 2013 by Government of Maharashtra, and many more. Friends, Chetan is a lead auditor and technical auditor for NABL, that is National Accreditation Board of Laboratories. Friends, he is also ISO 9001 2001 lead assessor. I definitely took little time, but this was very much important as far as his introduction was considered. So friends, this is all about his biodata, which he had developed over a period. However, there are some inherent properties, आपण म्हणतो ना मनुष्य स्वभाव, characteristic of every person which are in him by birth. Engineer Chetan loves knowledge sharing. He helps in upliftment of fraternity and always ready to contribute in whatever manner the community needs. And last, friends, but not the least, he is very humble, lives with simplicity, and a proud Indian who always carries Indian flag on his shirt. Thank you, Chetan sir, for your gesture, and I request you to start your presentation. We are little short of time, but you can take your own time because we are at home right now. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Can you hear me, Madhav and everybody?
Yes.
Yes, sir, you are audible.
Thanks for the very generous introduction of mine. And I am very proud to be a member of ISSE and from the structural engineering community. That is, I think, one of the greatest things I feel about myself. Because structural engineering is a science which deals with human beings on every walk of life, whether it's a bridge or a residential building or a mall or a commercial building or even a dam. So we cater to the society, and that's where I believe we have the opportunity to serve. And I'm sure if any one of you had seen the kind of damage Taj building had after the 26/11 attack of terrorist attack, you also would have quoted not more than a rupee. It was a very sad kind of an event, and it was a slap on the face of our country and our security systems. So that's the least I thought I could do for for the nation, and each one of us owes something back to the nation. We have to give it back to the society, and this I thought was an opportunity for me. There's nothing great, I'm sure. Any one of you would have done the same thing. I'll come straight to the point. I will request now. I want to share my presentation. So how do I share the screen now? Open share tray. If I open the share tray.
Yes. Open share tray.
Open share tray, and then do I go for?
Just click on screen and then click on screen.
Which screen?
Inbox.
Okay. Include system audio layer ते का नाही ना?
एक मिनिट. अब तुम्ही ओपन शेअर ट्रे केला ना तर खालती तुम्हाला एक 2 स्क्वेअर आहे बघा, तुमची स्क्रीन दिसेल. त्या स्क्रीनला क्लिक करा आणि परत त्यानंतर तुम्हाला तुमची स्क्रीन दिसते का खाली?
हो.
आणि त्यावर क्लिक करून मग ओके करा. मग अजून एक नवीन विंडो ओपन होईल. मग त्यामध्ये एकदा क्लिक करा आणि खाली ओके करा.
वन सेक. हे आता शेअर झालं?
नाही अजून.
नाही झालं?
नाही झालं. नाही.
वन सेक. हा, हे मी आता काय करू म्हणजे
हे बघा ना, ओपन शेअर कीला तुम्ही क्लिक केलं ना तर तुम्हाला खाली ते डेस्कटॉप विंडो म्हणून येईल बघा. खाली 2 चौकोन येतील खाली. म्हणजे इथे स्क्रीन शेअर डेस्कटॉप विंडो.
माझ्याकडे आता माझं प्रेझेंटेशन जे आहे ते माझ्या बॉटम बार मध्ये आहे. सो नाउ हाऊ डू आय टेक इट टू?
नाही, तुम्ही स्क्रीन शेअर केलं का दिसणार त्यामध्ये बघा. ओपन शेअर की केलं ना, ओपन शेअर ट्रे.
ओपन शेअर ट्रे केलं.
ओके. खाली तुम्हाला एक दुसरी विंडो येईल बघा. 2 विंडो येतील. तुमची डेस्कटॉप विंडो तुम्ही सिलेक्ट करा ना खाली तिथे.
जॉईन कॉन्व्हर्सेशन गुगल ते का नाही ना? आय गॉट 2 एका स्क्रीन वरती मला दोन्ही याच्यावरती मला माधव चिकोडी सरच दिसतात.
तुम्ही स्क्रीन शेअर ऑप्शन चूज करा.
तो केला ना तो. म्हणजे आता मी क्लोज ट्रे केला आणि ओपन शेअर ट्रे. आता परत काहीतरी वेगळं आलं. एक मिनिट. आत्ता आलं. आता येत आहे?
येस. आता दिसतंय.
Yes.
Is it full screen now?
Yes.
Oh, great.
Yes, now it is okay, sir.
Great. So, coming straight to the point, the non-destructive testing and its linkage to construction and repair industry हा आजच्या याच्यातला सब्जेक्ट आहे. So, I would thank Indian Society of Structural Engineers and the office bearers of the same, who are all my friends and colleagues, for giving me this opportunity to share my thought process with young engineers and budding engineers. So, what is non-destructive test? Non-destructive, as the name suggests, it is without causing any destruction to the sample. So, can cube testing be considered as non-destructive? In my opinion, no, because you can't test the same sample again. So even in a cube testing, you are not causing any harm to the structure, but you cannot test the sample again. So cube testing in a way is not non-destructive. So non-destructive testing is not causing harm to the structure. It is causing no harm to the sample, so that you could test the same sample or the same column or the same beam again and again and again. So for improved strength, or if you are doing any kind of a grouting, and if you want to know the efficacy of grouting, you can carry out ultrasonic before and after and things like that. So it's a non-invasive technique to determine the integrity of a material, component or structural quality deviations. आता या सगळ्या definition मध्ये do you see the word concrete anywhere? At least I don't see. So does it mean NDT is for concrete only? No. NDT is not only for concrete. NDT as basic techniques can be implemented on any building material. It need not be necessarily concrete. Some of the equipments are certainly calibrated for concrete, But you in your laboratory can always calibrate them for other materials. You can use a Smith hammer on brickwork. You can use a Smith hammer on stone. You can use, so you can actually calibrate the material for different items and have sufficient number of samples before you actually use it on site. NDT can be performed a number of times as and when required, even at the same location. Due to this, virtual NDT is so popular all over the world, despite the various limitations of equipments. As we would be seeing the limitations of the equipments also, because I believe a doctor must know what are the limitations of the equipment. You know, today he tries to use a car for flying. He will say, "Oh, it's a failed technique." No, it's not a failed technique. You are expecting too much from the machine or the equipment. So we must know the limitations of the equipment. Relatively simple to perform. However, the analysis and interpretation of result needs expertise. They have been used for more than 3 decades, or rather, I would say 4 decades now. You know, I have been using them for 3.5 decades now, and before me, I was sure. I'm sure there are some government laboratories who are using non-destructive testing in India. Do you know when the first Smith hammer was invented? It was invented in 1932. So another 10 years or 11 years, it will be 100 years old. So it's not a very new technique as such. You know, people when they say that, oh, new NDT is a new technique, I feel like laughing. I said, no, it's not new now. It's not new in India also. And many structural consultants have their own NDT equipments nowadays. You know, it's like a doctor having his own blood pressure machine or a stethoscope or a temperature meter. You know, so. Every structural engineer, I personally believe, must have basic NDT equipment. Which one we will see later in the presentation. NDT plays an important role. TPQI, that is third-party quality audit, third-party quality inspection. Not much used as quality assurance in India. When I say this, I am not making a very generic statement or a sweeping statement. NDT is not much used on new construction sites unless the cube fails. In fact, my request to all the structural engineers would be to use non-destructive testing on new construction, not only on health assessment sites or not only on the repair sites. Use it on new construction sites to improve, because see, a cube can always be manipulated. You can easily manipulate a cube sample, but you cannot manipulate a site concrete. So if you actually do the testing of site concrete, you will be able to get a much more confidence of what the grade of site concrete is, or where are the honeycombs and things like that. We'll talk of concrete because I have been given only 40 minutes, and in 40 minutes to cover so many NDT equipments, and this is a challenging task. So let us talk of various properties of concrete. First is strength. For strength, these are the following non-destructive testing equipments that are available. You know, a Smith rebound hammer is known to most of us. Pull-off test, pull-out test, break-off, penetration resistance, that is Windsor probe, core drilling. Core drilling, in true sense, is not a non-destructive test. It's a sampling process. We'll see it in detail when we come to that. Permeability, bond test, maturity method, and complete structural testing. So these are, that is like load testing or things like that. So these are the strength test. These are the non-destructive testing tests for testing the strength of concrete. Then for corrosion assessment and reinforcement related tests, we have half cell meter, we have resistivity, we have carbonation, we have fluoride penetration. We can use endoscopy. Endoscopy is the inspection technique and not a non-destructive testing, but I put it in non-destructive testing, so that because it makes the investigation complete. Cover meter and rebar locator. The third type of property that we want to know is to detection of cracks, voids, and delamination, you know, including honeycombing and things like that. You have ultrasonic, we have infrared thermography, acoustic emission technique, short pulse radar or radar method, or it's called GPR also, ground penetrating radar. Stress wave propagation method, that is pulse echo method, impact echo method or response spectrum method, crack detection, endoscopy, moisture meter. So these are few of the techniques which can be used. We'll be seeing each of it in detail in the later slides. So let me go a little faster on this. Laboratory tests, we have petrography. Petrography, I'm sure all the engineers have have studied it in geology. You know, something very interesting and surprising. Madhav Chikodi sir introduced me that he is a structural engineer who is into conservation of heritage structures. You all know that heritage structures are predominantly built with stone. Petrography is a science of stone. Geology is a subject of stone. And geology is a subject which is not taught to architectural students. It is taught only to engineering students. And architects are dominating the field of conservation, which in my opinion is grossly incorrect. So that's the reason I request most of the structural engineers to get into the field of conservation, because it is meant for us and not for them. They just know to do the powder lipstick, you know, the external makeup of the building. That's it. Otherwise, architects have no much role to play in conservation. It's a field related to structural engineering. Chemical analysis, which is where we take the sample to the laboratory and to the site. Compressive strength on core samples. These are laboratory tests. Water permeability and carbonation. Durability, again, there are 5 tests: autoclamp, permit, initial surface absorption test, 4 tests, and rapid chloride migration test. Let me go to the next slide now. I will not spend any time. This is a list which you can get on the internet. These are various standards. We will be seeing these 14 techniques of non-destructive testing in this presentation today, and these are the various standards. Some of them have Indian standard and some do not have Indian standard. So it's only ASTM, you know. So like if you say ultrasonic, there is Indian standard 516 part 5 is 2018, and ASTM and British standards also this. But then infrared thermography, there is no Indian standard. There is only American standard. So this is that. Commonly practiced non-destructive tests and advanced non-destructive tests. Why am I making it commonly practiced and advanced non-destructive testing? There is nothing advanced or there is nothing complicated. There is no rocket science. When you, at the end of the presentation, you will see, हे सगळं तर अतिशय सोपं आहे. Yes, सोपं आहे. फक्त ते प्रॅक्टिस आहे. सायकल चालवणं किती सोपं आहे, पण पहिल्यांदा किती वेळा पडतो आपण, तसं आहे ते. It's very easy. These equipments are very easy, but the interpretation is not easy, which requires a lot of practice, which requires a structural engineer. So let us see a few techniques which are easily known. I presume that in your engineering college, you are taught the basic non-destructive testing equipments, but I'll still show you. This is Smith hammer. Smith hammer is of different types, you know, M type, that is medium, L is light, P is pendulum type, N is normal. This is generally used on ordinary buildings, bridges. This is well suited for testing mortars or plasters and surface renderings. This is meant for thin walls, you know, 100 mm or thinner walls if you have to take 75 mm, because this has this N, P, L and M depends on the impact energy. You can see the impact energy is different for each of them. For determining the strength of mass concrete for roads and other thicker elements, you know, foundation tops, pile cap tops and things like that, you can see the height. See, this Smith hammer is approximately a foot long, whereas this Smith hammer is 3 feet long. So you can see the difference in impact energy also. This is 2.25, 2.2 Newton meter, and this is 29. So it's almost 10 times, a little more, you know, 13, 14 times higher. Smith hammer depends on the principle of action and reaction are equal and opposite. I think Newton's second law or something. So if you hit a concrete with a standard mass, concrete depending on the hardness will rebound back the mass, and if there is a calibration rider which is mounted on the mass when the mass is being thrown back, it can give you what is the hardness of concrete, and the hardness is a function of compressive strength. So you are able to deduce the compressive strength by measuring the hardness of concrete. See, every equipment you will see, you are not measuring the property of the concrete directly. You are not measuring the compressive strength of concrete directly. You are measuring the hardness. Some cases you are measuring the toughness. Some cases you will be measuring some other impact resistance of concrete and deducing the compressive strength. So these are the basic limitations of non-destructive tests when they come to measurement of concrete compressive strength. When it comes to voids and honeycombing, NDT are absolutely very accurate. If you want to know the reinforcement, the locations, NDT is very accurate. But when it comes to compressive strength, it does have some limitation. Does that mean that NDT is trash or rubbish? No, not at all. But NDT is neither trash, NDT is neither God. So one has to understand non-destructive testing if he really wants to benefit from getting the non-destructive testing done. These are the applications, qualitative assessment of compressive strength of concrete up to 1 year. Because why? When I say 1 year, it's the carbonation of concrete that affects, it starts affecting after 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, depending on which city the structure is. A dry city like Pune or Nagpur will have much slower rate of carbonation, whereas a moist city like Mumbai, with a very high humidity, will have a lot of challenges. It gives advantages. It is very accurate. It's inexpensive. It's a very short and portable, handy equipment. It can be taken to any this thing. Limitations are test results affected by size, shape, and rigidity of the specimen, age of the concrete under test, surface and internal moisture conditions of the concrete. See, if it is moist, the hardness will change, isn't it? So if the concrete is wet, it will surely have a different this thing. Then type of coarse aggregate, type of cement. See, the Smith hammer which you get in the market is calibrated for OPC. But what you get today is a cement which is mixed with fly ash. Even at the manufacturing level, a few percentage of fly ash is added. So it's no more a pure OPC. It is like PPC, or having pozzolanic ingredients in it. So can we directly use the Smith hammer even if it is brand new for the concrete on site? Probably no. Or use it with a pinch of salt. So that's where the expertise comes in. Even for a simple equipment like Smith hammer, one has to know the limitations of the equipment and one has to be expert. These are the different locations a Smith hammer is being used. Horizontally, it can be used vertically up, vertically down, horizontally. And it is being used on different these things. One is, I think, on a residential building, on a bridge, on a, I think this is Pamban Bridge in Tamil Nadu, where the people are hanging from top and doing the testing. So any kind of concrete you can use the Smith hammer. You have to be careful on carbonated concrete. Second is ultrasonic pulse velocity. Ultrasonic is the same technique which doctor uses. आपल्याकडे म्हणतात ना अल्ट्रासाउंड करायला चाललो मी जेव्हा आईच्या पोटात बाळ असतं त्या बाळाची ग्रोथ होते की नाही हे बघायला सुद्धा डॉक्टर अल्ट्रासाउंड वापरतात. Similarly, we also use ultrasonic. The principle is the same of sending high frequency sound waves through the body and getting the responses. That is the simple principle of ultrasonic. But the equipment that doctors use is different and the equipment that we use is different. If anyone has got ultrasound done on your body, you will know that doctor also applies some kind of a jelly. Why he applies that kind of a jelly is because he wants to remove the air gap between the object and the probe. So what you see in this photograph is a POP bed that is done, because once you remove the plaster, the internal concrete surface is hacked and it is defaced already. So, but for ultrasonic reading, you must have a smooth surface. So to make it back smooth, we have a very thin layer of concrete, a very thin layer of, plaster of Paris, on which we apply grease and take the ultrasonic reading. So what we get is the time taken by high frequency sound waves to travel the fixed distance. So distance upon time gives you the velocity. So simply we saw passing high frequency sound waves through the body. That's the principal application, quality and homogeneity of concrete strength. Now here I would say that ultrasonic is not very accurate in prediction of strength and it should not be used for prediction of strength at all. Why? Because I will say leave it to me, leave it to my experience of 35 years, but I would still give you the experiment that we did in the year 89 and 90. There we cast 6,000 cubes on one of our sites because we were challenged that time by a body and said that can you are making a statement, can you prove? So we cast 6,000 cubes of from M10 to M40. Different grades M10, M15, M20, and then we plotted a graph of compressive strength versus the ultrasonic, and we proved to them that the scatter is far too much. So it is highly inaccurate to use ultrasonic for prediction of strength, and after that it was stopped. Prediction of ultrasonic. Still, some laboratories do that, but that's okay. If you are using Smith hammer and ultrasonic in combination, maybe you can do that, but after sufficient number of readings. And what do you mean by sufficient number of readings? That's an R&D subject, and we'll keep it to some other lecture. Then dynamic for knowing the dynamic modulus of elasticity, for depth of cracks and flaws, yes. For honeycombing, poor patches in concrete, assessment of fire damaged concrete is extremely useful. Ultrasonic in assessing the fire damaged concrete, because ultrasonic can detect even micro cracking, and in fire damage, concrete develops micro cracking, which is not seen by the naked eye, but the concrete fragments into small pieces inside, and ultrasonic is can be used. It can rapidly survey large areas and large members. Path length of 10 meter to 15 meter also can be inspected with this safety, but this is, you require special probes for having path lengths of this long. The limitations are proper surface preparation is required. We just saw, we use POP, and the work is very time consuming, and it takes only point measurement. It just takes a single point, whereas if you use a radar, it scans the whole area of concrete. Skill is required in the analysis of results, as moisture variation and presence of metal reinforcement can affect the results. Next equipment that we see is cover meter or magnetometer. Cover meter or magnetometer is for knowing the reinforcement that is provided inside. You would say, "Mala to mahite hai kai sare aatmade taktat," but when you go to a building which is 30-year-old, you really do not know the kind of reinforcement that is there inside, and you need to really understand. So this is the equipment. It works on the principle of when a magnet or an electromagnet comes in vicinity of a magnetic substance like steel, there is a flux generated and a current flows through the body, and closer the two surfaces of the magnetic material, that is reinforcement, and the electromagnet, that is the machine or the probe of the machine, closer the two, higher is the amount of current and the machine is calibrated. It's a very simple principle. It is useful to detect and position and cover. Rebar diameter also can be detected. It's not very accurate rebar diameter prediction because so many other aspects depend on it. If two bars are very close to each other, then sometimes the machine shows that as a combined bar, and it affects the readings. Useful in preparing structural drawings of RCC structures. If someone wants to extend 2 more floors in the building and the residential drawings are and the RCC drawings are not there, then how do you go about it? You can use this equipment, prepare the column drawings. The challenge still remains is how do you prepare footing drawings, So it is still a limitation, but at least you can know the column sizes, the reinforcement that is there within, and then work out the load carrying capacity of the columns and check if they can take the additional 2 floors or 3 floors or whatever the vertical extension that you intend doing. Advantages is reasonably accurate instrument for preparing basic. When I say reasonably, I'm using very carefully using the word reasonably because it is not highly accurate for providing RCC drawings, but it can give you more than 75-80% confidence level, which in my opinion is very high. Useful in projects where vertical extension, this we just saw, pre-stressing or pre-stressing tendons and secondary reinforcement also can be detected, because in many cases now we have PT slabs, for last probably over 10-15 years. We are having PT slabs, and then earlier, it's like crossing the road. When we learn to cross the road, we are very careful, but after a few years, we don't care. We ask the vehicle to stop, so we become careless in crossing the road. In PT also, Mota something, the same thing is happening now. People are doing PT and not giving data to the owner of the structure. The PT strand locations that they put on the slab also are sometimes wrong. So if you have to really make some modifications in the structural system, make cutouts or whatever, you have no option but to use an equipment like this. Not very useful in congestion of reinforcement. Why? Because if you see the principle, if two bars are very close to each other, then the combined flux that is generated for two bars, the current would flow because of the combined flux that is generated, and it will really show incorrect readings. So it's inaccurate, not very accurate and time consuming for bar diameter evaluation. Requires structural engineer's assistance in correct evaluation of test results. Moisture meter, it works on the principle of electrical resistivity of the meter. So electrical resistivity or electrical resistance, very simple. It's a true two-probe system. Qualification true for fresh and hardened concrete. Why fresh and hardened concrete? It can be used on brickwork, plaster, tiles, wood. In fact, the next slide is going to show you three different samples of three different materials. Simple and comparatively inexpensive. The moisture content of concrete may produce. You may ask me, where do I need to know the moisture content of concrete? If you have to paint a concrete surface like industrial flooring, if you have to use epoxy, you must have a concrete with less than 4% of moisture. If you have moisture more than that, your epoxy might peel off and your paint may entirely. So in such areas, you need to know the moisture content of concrete. And see this slide, the same technician, same equipment is showing three different materials. So you can use it on brick or brickwork, on plaster, on tiles. See, this equipment can also be used on tiles to understand where the leakage is. Suppose you have got concealed plumbing, and concealed plumbing, the leakage is from one spot. So obviously, nearer to that spot, the moisture content is going to be high. So if you take several readings in a grid fashion on the wall of a toilet or wall of a swimming pool, you can actually, if you are careful and if you document the whole area in the form of a graph sheet, then you can actually pinpoint areas where the leakage is. You have to be very careful, but you can do that. It requires a little bit of experiment. And friends, I did this in 93, it's about 28 years back, with this instrument and ultrasonic, and saved huge amount of money of retiling of a swimming pool in Mumbai. So you can very effectively use these equipments to detect the locations from where the water is coming in. Core test, as I said, core is a sampling process. What you see here is a core extracted. It's a sampling process and not a test in itself. Coring is a sampling process. So you take a cylindrical sample out of a concrete column, beam, or any other structural element. And why only concrete? You can take core from steel, not steel, sorry. You can take core from stone. You can take core from bricks. If the bricks are of bigger size, you can take smaller diameter core and use them for compressive strength also. So you can actually take cores from other building materials also. If you got C4X walls and you want to know the compressive strength of load-bearing C4X walls, so you can use that. So coming back to the cylindrical shape of concrete samples, and then the application, this sample can be used for all these tests, starting from compressive strength. Why I like core test is this is the only test. See in advantages, this is the only test which provides direct compressive strength of in situ concrete. No other test, my dear friends, as I mentioned, talks of direct compressive strength. And other laboratory tests can be done, chemical analysis, ultrasonic, you can do UPVC, there's ultrasonic pulse velocity on USPV, on concrete core samples also you can do carbonation, chemical analysis, you can know the density of site concrete. You can actually do visual inspection of site concrete, you can do petrography, that is microscopic analysis of concrete. You can use core test for RCPT also, rapid chloride permeability test. Limitations is extremely difficult to rectify the reinforcement if you cut while coring. It's extremely difficult. I'm not saying it's impossible. So it is not good to cut a reinforcement while coring. It's not what a good structural engineer and a good laboratory will do. So you must always necessarily use a cover meter to detect the reinforcement locations and take a core in between. Improper instrument may induce microcracking, requires skilled and trained manpower. And next is half cell potentiometer. Half cell potentiometer gives you, it's a very simple technique. It's a high impedance voltmeter. The electrical, I think the anode is connected to the reinforcement. The cathode is copper sulfate half cell. And if the current flows through the circuit, because chemical resistance, because corrosion is a process of chemical, it's oxidation, isn't it? So when you have a current flowing through the circuit, there is a voltage. You are measuring the voltage, and depending on the voltage, you can know the probability of corrosion. Now this particular photo, if you see, you may say, I can obviously see the reinforcement corroded. So why are you doing the test here if you already know that it's corroded? But in any kind of entity, it is always good to do some tests on good concrete, some tests on suspect concrete, and some tests on obviously bad concrete. What percentage that you would ask me? Maybe 5 or 10% on good concrete, 5 or 10 on suspect, 5 or 10 on obviously bad concrete, and 80 to 90% on suspect concrete. So that you can know what is the acceptance criteria. You have the complete range of good concrete readings, bad concrete readings, and suspect concrete readings. Why concrete? It's there for any material for that matter. Because you can do ultrasonic on wood also, construction timber also. You can do ultrasonic on steel also, or any other building material, cast iron. Or I have done ultrasonic on brick masonry, random rubble masonry, and found out voids in random rubble masonry and grouted those voids. So it can be very easily used. After all, it's a technique. You are sending high frequency sound waves and knowing the voids, location of voids. So it can be. So you need to find out good readings, bad readings, and suspect readings. Half cell potentiometer is not for prediction of percentage corrosion. See the limitations. I'm going a little fast because I'm sure I'll not be able to complete it within the time. Some laboratories, unscrupulous laboratories, tell you that we will give you percentage corrosion. There is a different instrument for percentage corrosion, not half cell potentiometer. And that instrument is not internationally used on, it is used in R&D works in the laboratory, but not yet used on the construction sites. It's not very popular because of the high level of inaccuracy that it still has. This is petrography. Petrography is, as I said, see, Petra means, I think in Greek language, Petra means stone. So it's a science of stone where you actually see the DNA of the stone or a signature of the stone. So what you do is a 30 micron thin stone sample by grinding. These are various types of stone samples that are kept on a piece of paper. These are 30 micron. 30 micron is 1 micron is 1,000th of a millimeter, and 30 parts like that. So we are talking of 30 parts out of 1,000 parts of 1 millimeter. So it's a very, very thin. The stone and concrete actually become transparent depending on the ingredients. It becomes transparent. Then you see it under microscope at 50 times magnification, 100 times magnification. And this instrument, what you see here, is a thin section preparation set. But thin section, that is, this sample can be prepared with hand also. This equipment is prohibitively expensive. But if you have people who are trained in this thing, it can be done with hand with a very locally manufactured machine. It's not a, but you need a good quality microscope, and this is how you see on the screen. So you can use Petrography for quality checks of aggregate type and composition, cement clinker, phase composition, phases in cement manufacturing, total air void content, dispersion of mineral admixture throughout the concrete matrix. You know, when you have added mineral admixture or pozzolanic material at the mixer at site, and you want to know whether the dispersion is proper throughout the body of concrete. I have actually done this experiment, you know, on I think, if I'm mistaken, not about a 3-4 meter by 20 meter long footing, and the client wanted to know whether the fly ash has dispersed properly. So we had taken 30-40 samples from concrete samples from various locations in the same footing, small samples, and prepared petrographic thin sections out of it, and certified that yes, because you can actually see a fly ash particle under the microscope in a thin section. So we could very confidently tell the customer there was no other way of finding whether the fly ash dispersion within the body of concrete was uniform, and that was a very key property for some usage of theirs that was important. Presence and relative abundance of fly ash, presence and relative abundance of slag, alkali aggregate reactivity, fire damaged concretes, again very useful in AAR and fire damaged concrete. You know, micro cracking and reaction of corrosion of this thing. Again, see, these are the various applications, very powerful and unique dimensions. The limitation is equipment setup is expensive, and you require highly experienced and qualified person. This is extremely important because seeing it under a microscope is easy, but the interpretation is very difficult, and you need several years of experience to do this. There are various slides how you see, you know, what you see here. You may say, oh, this looks like honeycombing, but this is honeycombing in the thin cement paste. So what you see here is not an aggregate piece, you know, this is probably a very small particle of sand, because this could be a 50 times magnified view. It must be written there, but I'm not able to read it. This is alkali aggregate reaction ring, you know, so this is how it looks. So this has endless applications, petrography. Chemical analysis is needed where you want to actually do the tertiary tests on concrete, you know, chloride percentage, sulfate percentage, the pH, and then on fire damaged material, you want to actually see what is the temperature reached, you know. So loss of water, this is a furnace. This is a furnace where you can use it for steel also, or you can use it for concrete also. Another, this is a titration set, and so many other. This is just symbolic. So chemical analysis you can do, again you can do wonders as far as concrete, or see, you can use chemical analysis in bricks also. You can use chemical analysis in other building materials also. You know, you want to use plaster, you want to check whether it is lime, or what percentage of lime and things like that in old buildings, particularly heritage buildings, then chemical analysis is extremely useful. Carbonation is a very simple, as technique it is very simple. You take a core and spray 2% phenolphthalein on it, you know. So, but carbonation is a process of effect of carbon dioxide on the free calcium that is available, and it forms calcium carbonate at the end of it. So carbonation makes the concrete strong but brittle, hard and brittle, what we call it. So this carbonation falsely increases the Smith hammer, rebound hammer value, falsely. So sometimes if you take Smith hammer on an old building and do the coring, the core results are much lower compared to the Smith hammer reading, because Smith hammer is giving you false increase in the carbonation because of the carbonations, false increase in the rebound number because of carbonation. But this is how the concrete turns. It actually turns pink when it is not carbonated, and then the carbonated portion remains gray. So then you measure, you know, so this is the depth of carbonation. See, carbonation, why is it important for the knowledge of students? The professionals already know. Carbonation reduces the pH of concrete. So fresh concrete, we all know that it has a pH of more than 13, and normal pH is 7, so anything less than 7 is extremely dangerous, because if the concrete turns acidic, which actually does not turn, but if it is closer to the neutral pH, 8, 9, it will have a very high ability to permit corrosion. Highly alkaline concrete will act as a deterrent to corrosion. But as the pH drops, so carbonation is a rough indication of knowing whether the pH is dropping, and then you can take samples for chemical analysis. Endoscopy. तुम्ही एक ऐकलं असेल दुर्बिणीतून नसबंदी, and that durbin is endoscope. So medical profession uses endoscope. We also use endoscope. Where do we use endoscope? Endoscope is where a human eye cannot go. Like if you have to measure what is inside this hole of a bridge, you can use endoscope, and you can see the endoscope is almost 2 feet strong. So you can push it up to 2 feet into any hole. You can know different kinds of holes, voids, or under cracking inside the thing. This is how typically an endoscope looks. Endoscope is, these are fiber optic cables, So endoscope is actually not a test, but it's an inspection tool. Direct visual inspection can be done in inaccessible parts, like above a false ceiling. If you have a false ceiling and you want to know the structural condition above the false ceiling, so you can just remove the light fixtures, the electrical bulbs, and put an endoscope above, and you can inspect the area above. So if it is bad, only then remove the false ceiling. Otherwise, removal of false ceiling is a huge cost. Second area is where you have false ceiling made up of wood. In heritage structures, you want to inspect above the wooden false ceiling. Wooden false ceiling also is 25 mm thick in olden days. So how do you cut that? So just don't cut it, make a 10 mm diameter hole, put an endoscope, see above. Only if the material above is eroded, if it is wood, or corroded if it is steel, only then you remove the false ceiling. Otherwise, why disturb? You save lakhs and lakhs of rupees for the client. The equipment is expensive, and it does require maintenance, breakage and all. You have to be very careful. So it's an inspection tool and not a test technique. Infrared thermography is another technique which is also an inspection technique, but not an entity in true sense. This works on the principle of measuring the temperature difference. Infrared thermography also is a magical. From a distance, you can actually take photographs of concrete. You can see a concrete silo. My engineer is taking photographs of concrete silo, or you can take photographs of wall, and actually you will know which are the leakage spots, in a wall. In this case, the blue ones are the leakage spots, and then as it turns yellow, it is a dryer. So these are the locations. So only at these locations in an RCC wall you can do grouting, and the leakage can stop. These are load-bearing brick stone masonry piers, So you want to know whether the piers are hollow, which are the areas which are hollow. You can near surface. This is near surface inspection, not deep inspection. For deep inspection, you have to use radar or you have to use ultrasonic. But then for near surface inspection, infrared is a very, very good tool. Applications, condition assessment of structures such as cooling tower, chimneys, whatever. Advantages, non-contact and non-destructive method that enables rapid investigation. Like if it is we have inspected even 250 meter tall hyperbolic paraboloids using infrared camera. If I had to erect a scaffolding of 250 meters, then it would have been, the cost would be in several lakhs, the cost of scaffolding itself. That too, one component of it. Why do I do that? So I can use binoculars, infrared cameras, but yes, infrared cameras can be, in such cases, can be used only on fair days, because you are actually taking photographs. So the weather has to be clear, and you may have some limitations if it is very cloudy and not very bright and sunny. See this, I think this is what exactly I mentioned here. Strongly depends on weather condition, and since it requires the presence of sunlight. The next is radar. That is, how do I pin toolbar presenting? Sorry, let me go here. Yeah, ground penetrating radar. Even radar has a full form, RADAR. It is radio detection and ranging. So radar initially was being used by the military. But now civil engineering also for last about 30 years we are using radar in India. Not 30 years, I would say 27, 28 years. This is a simple equipment, handheld camera also, a handheld antenna also for vertical walls. You can see my people using radar on inside of a silo, I suppose, on a suspended platform. This is typically how a radar. This is a core section of a road that is there in Mumbai, and this is typically how it looks. This top portion is this, then the bitumastic asphalt is this portion, and then this is the concrete. So this shows the voided areas of concrete also. But this core does not show because this core could be in a better area. So this is where you can know the thickness of concrete road also very accurately. So the client wanted to know whether the concrete had voids, honeycombs, and we did radar scanning. Radar scanning is extremely useful. We have done it very effectively on bridge piers to identify where exactly are the voids. And sometime back, I think I had sent a video which on my social media, which received huge response from people because it's a very simple technique of identifying. This was a metro pier. The client had asked to demolish the pier because ultrasonic readings were very bad. So using radar, we identified the exact locations of the voids, grouted it, and again did radar. So we grouted till the radar readings were fine, and the customer was very happy. Then I think they did the load testing also on the entire metro pier, and it passed. So they were extremely happy that we could save a metro pier of almost 60 or 80 lakhs was the cost of the pier. It was 3 meter by 2.5 meter, if I remember correctly, by whatever height, 6 meters. So we could save a lot of reinforcement, and the whole project would have gone ahead by 4 to 6 weeks, which they wanted to avoid. So radar is a fabulous technique which can be used. So this is what radar is. You are sending short waves, through a body of concrete. Have you all noticed that in NDT we are using some kind of waves? Ultrasonic, that is sound waves; infrared, that is light wave; radar, that is electric waves or short waves; then cover meter, that is magnetic waves. There are other equipments also which works on the principles of magnetism. There are equipments which work on the stress wave theory. You give an impulse and then you measure the stress reading. So because wave propagation is as consistent as is the sunrise and sunset. So wave propagation is consistent. Whether you do it today, you do it after a month, you do it. So these equipments are very accurate if you know to use them. See, vehicles do not cause accidents. The humans cause accident. They don't maintain the vehicle, so brake fail jala म्हणून accident jala. They overspeed and they are not able to control. अरे vehicle control
Chetan sir, you are muted.
Sorry. Can you? Where did I?
Just couple of lines.
Okay, so what I wanted to say was that if motor vehicles do not cause accident, it's a human who is driving causes the accident, and even if it's a brake fail, he has not done the maintenance properly, so the brake has failed. So these equipments also, non-destructive testing equipments also are very very accurate if you know to use them and know the limitations. We have used radar so accurately that we have detected the voids inside pleistocene tendon. Voids inside a pleistocene tendon. What you see here, this particular photo is using an endoscope because in one of the PT sites, the client wanted us to detect the pleistocene tendons, the locations, detect the voids within the pleistocene tendons, and then just to check whether what we had found out, he actually exposed and broke open the sheathing and saw exactly at that very location the voids were there. So radar can be very accurate if we know to use it properly. Then one more superb inspection tool is drone. It is not again an NDT testing, it's a inspection tool. And we have taller and taller structures to be inspected. This is one of the photographs recently which we did for VT station or CSMT, Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj Terminus Station, where we had to inspect the damage to this dome and to this statue. So this is close to 180 feet from the bottom. So how does one reach that height? The cost of scaffolding could have been extremely high. So use a drone. Another area is in underside of the bridge. If you have to inspect, so we regularly have started using drones for inspection of up and under. I call it. There is a company called Up and Under. So at very high heights and underside of inaccessible areas. These are perennial rivers. So how do you go? So if you go in a boat and all, it's not very comfortable and not very convenient, and it's expensive also. So use a drone for inspection of underside of bridges and this thing. Now, what are the challenges in inspection and non-destructive testing? Challenges is the access. Access is always a challenge of non-destructive testing. Inspection underwater, that is bridges, we just saw. Non-availability of technical data. In most cases, 98 out of 100 cases, the client says, sir, we don't have any drawings. And in 2 cases, if you are fortunate, you get architectural drawings. In my entire career of 35, 36 years, I have got structural drawings in probably not more than 2 structures. Though that too, they were relatively new, 8, 10 years old. We actually do not get structural drawings. For some reason, only the God knows, nobody preserves the structural drawings. In fact, architectural drawings can always be created anytime, after 100 years also, but structural drawings cannot be created. So friends, it is best to promote that we preserve the structural drawings, but the non-availability of technical data is one challenge, and the limitations. And we saw limitations on NDT while we saw the NDT testing in occupied structures. Let me show you some photographs of each. Access. Now testing underside, you want to test this column or this column. To go through the waters and climb onto this height, the cost of testing is very limited, but the cost of access is very, very high. Now this is Gateway of India retaining wall. Here my people are doing radar, and this is actually under this there is water. So they are on a what do I say, ladder, which is jetting from a boat. So it's a very, very ticklish situation. So it was not happening. So we said, let my people climb down from top on ropes. So we identified some people who are into mountaineering, and then they went down and did the testing. This portion is water. It's the same wall. So inspection in inaccessible areas is a big challenge, and the cost of access can be much higher sometimes compared to the non-destructive testing cost itself. This is another area. These are suspended platforms doing testing on bridge on the side. This is so dangerous. There is a this thing, and he's of course having a safety belt and a harness. Everyone is wearing that, but it is still very dangerous. If someone does not know swimming or is scared of heights, then he will have challenges. When you do a drilling in a residential building, you cause a lot of inconvenience to people. Inside a house, you spray water, you break open their houses. So it's not very convenient to do testing inside a residential building. If you actually want to take course, today Bombay Municipal Corporation, or I'm sure Pune Municipal Corporation or any other municipal corporation also must be insisting on core testing before giving the structural stability certificate. So taking this course in a residential building is very cumbersome, very tedious, very damaging to the comfort level of the occupants. So these are the challenges. Next is going above the false ceiling. So this is what I see, you know. Luckily, this false ceiling has a trap door. So at least my engineer could go up, put his head up and see the area above, you know, with a electrical lamp. But suppose if this false ceiling was not there, this cutout was not there, then we would have tried and removed the fire detection system or this AC vent and put an endoscope, endoscope into it and seen the area above. You know, with this kind of an office, no one will allow you to cut the false ceiling. This photograph shows how plush the office is. This again is a area where the access is tedious. It's not a very easy, and though it's very safe, but there are two people doing the testing simultaneously on both sides. You know, one is doing, so they are opposite faces doing ultrasonic testing. This is where the plaster has been removed, POP has been done. But then why is he doing Smith hammer? I really don't know. I must also ask my people, because why on POP Smith hammer is being done, or is it just for demonstration? But it's a funny way of demonstrating. It's an incorrect photo. This is where he's doing ultrasonic on both sides, whereas he's standing. If you actually see on a plastic chair, can be dangerous. But sometimes there is no option. You need to really do the testing fast. See, this is how the ultrasonic spots remain on the surface, which need to be cleaned. This is again a residential building where coring is done, and see the mess that the laboratory team is creating. This is inside somebody's house, and this is outside in the common area. This coring is a very messy test. So these are a few slides which I am sharing just to show the challenges that one faces in carrying out NDT. So that is, thank you very much, my dear friends. This is a long and short of NDT. I know I rushed through and I couldn't complete any of the points, but this was just an introduction of NDT and where it can be used. So thank you very much once again, and I'll ask the organizers if I can take question answers now, if it's permitted.
Yes, sir. Now the platform is open for question answers. So those who want to ask the questions, please, they can unmute and ask the questions. But regarding your presentation, sir, your presentation is very wonderful. You have covered almost all the equipments, and I think there is no question limit. So personally, suppose it is very difficult to find the questions. I prepare one question, but regarding the masonry, okay, but in the next slide, you have cleared about that particular. So that's why your presentation is very nice. In our curriculum, sir, at the third year engineering, the subject is there, advanced concrete technology. In that, there is only one chapter about the NDT and apparatuses, but that is introductory. So that is, students are not getting that much in-depth knowledge about the NDT area. But after seeing your presentation, so we can imagine that is how much development is there in the area of non-destructive testing, and obviously it is a separate area is there where a lot of experience is also needed. You worked in this area for last 35 years. So in the presentation, meanwhile, you say that these are the equipments, it is very easy to handle, but I think it is not that much simple. If the equipments are not handled carefully and properly with a proper technique, so the readings will be very erratic. One thing is that, and almost again, next thing is that after getting the data also, interpretation of the result is very important. Okay, so that there we required a lot of experience also. So it is the area is something different. So therefore, I must say that whatever the NDT area now, this is just like a doctor. Okay, so diagnosis center. So where actually how to use the equipment and then get the reading and interpretation. So this is about your presentation. Regarding the questions, just I will.
I have one thing to add in what you said. You said in the third year the students have this subject of non-destructive testing. Your college is in Sangli.
Yeah.
I have a laboratory in Pune where most of these equipments are available. So what I would do is I would invite your students of third year each year from this year, that they can come to our laboratory in Pune, spend a whole day. We will show them the demonstration of the equipments. We will give them a full 3 hours of lecture on NDT and 3 hours of demonstration. And we do that for many engineering colleges as a service. We don't charge anything for this. So just send a mail to us, and on behalf of ISSC, we can take it up. So it's
Yes,
so that
yes,
the
yes.
boys get to see the equipments, and even send the professors, because they also are able to get to see the equipments. We can plan.
Yes, yes, yes. So, sir, thank you for the invitation. Definitely, after the pandemic situation, we'll think about this particular visit.
Sure.
Definitely, it will be benefited to the student. Now, we'll start for the question answer. So, first, I will ask one question, maybe simple for you. See, ultrasonic pulse velocity measures actually the strength of the material. Is there any limitation for this particular equipment? For example, if the section is very, very large, thickness is there. So in that case, maybe 3 meter, 4 meter diameter is there. So in that case, can we measure correctly? Or any such limitation is there to this particular equipment that beyond this particular thickness, it cannot, these readings are gives more erratic, or it suppose too much thinner is there. Also, it cannot be used. Something is it like this? Is there any limitation?
Actually, yes, there is no limitation of the technology. There is limitation of the equipment. See, frequency is 1 over lambda. Lambda is the wavelength. So if we use higher frequency probe, then the wavelength will be short. And if it is a shorter wavelength, yeah?
Yes, 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 sir.
Yeah,
Please,
so
please,
if
please
it's a
continue.
shorter wavelength, then for smaller sections, you can use high frequency probes. And if you want more penetration, that is, you want to test 3 meter, 5 meter, 8 meter, 10 meter length of girders. We do get metro girders which are 3 meter in section, 4 meter in section. So when you have to test those kind of things, you have to use smaller frequency probes. See, what you get along with the equipment is generally 54 kilohertz, which is the standard frequency. But you easily get probes up to 25 kilohertz also, and 150 kilohertz also. So any laboratory must have the entire range of this thing, and it can be used on this. But I would still have my reservations of using it for prediction of compressive strength of concrete. Ultrasonic for compressive strength. Ultrasonic should be used for voids, honeycombing, cracking, micro cracking, and such other properties, particularly homogeneity of concrete.
Yeah, correct. Actually, sir, it is very challenging to assess the bridges, especially masonry bridges, because I am living in the Kolhapur. On the Panchganga River, there is a masonry bridge which actually was constructed 100 years back, and there is a need of a retrofitting. So I think municipality have called this thing the tender for this, and one company, I think Stuckwell, the company actually they came to on a site, and they are taking the photographs right from the top, and they have some JCB machine equipments are there, and they photo this thing. So it is really challenging that. So is it a Stuckwell that is visited to Kolhapur
That is
Bridge?
my company only. That is my company.
Yeah.
Stuckwell is my company only.
Your company.
I know. We have done more than 500 bridge inspections till date. So Kolhapur, that Panchganga bridge वरचा जो नदीवरचा जो ब्रिज आहे, त्याचं लोड बेरिंग म्हणजे तो 100-150 वर्ष जुना ब्रिज आहे. बरोबर. रडार टेस्टिंग वगैरे पण
yes.
My company only did that.
हो, ते मी एकदा विजिट घेऊन आलो तेवढी स्टुडंटचे त्यावेळी. Yes, okay. And my last question is that, sir, can we predict the life of the structure from NDT apparatus? Because after NDT, we get the information whether what is the strength of the material. Can we predict after that the life? Can we relate this?
Yes, actually NDT can be one of the tools. We need to do some kind of a reiteration, because you get the properties of the material today and predict. Because see, if the cover is 50 mm, and after 25 mm the carbonation is only 25, after 25 years, if the carbonation is 25 mm, then you can easily say that another 25 years it will take to reach the carbonation up to the reinforcement.
Yes.
So you can actually measure the air permeability of in situ concrete or water permeability of in situ concrete. If you don't want to do that, you can take a few core samples, take them to the laboratory and do permeability tests. So you can know what is, so you can actually predict the permittivity of concrete, which
Yes.
tells you what would be the probable expected rate of corrosion
Yeah.
by half cell and these techniques. And by compressive strength, if you know the compressive strength is X, you know, it was the design compressive strength is say M20, but on site you are getting now 22 or 18 or whatever. You can do back analysis using that property of site concrete and actually know what is the expected life expectancy. There are very straightforward ways of working out the life expectancy. International
Yes,
standards are there actually
Yes,
for
yes,
working
yes.
out the life expectancy.
Yes, sir. So participant, do you want to ask any questions? Please unmute and ask questions. I think Deepak sir have raised the hand.
Good evening, Raghav sir.
Namaskar.
Hello. My question is, what is the total cost of these instruments? One structural engineer, if anyone want to establish.
See, actually, different equipments have got different costs. You know, a Smith hammer is available at 10-20,000 rupees also, Indian Smith hammer, but which is not very accurate. A good quality Smith hammer is available at 1 lakh, 1,25,000. A good ultrasonic machine, again the same, from 1 lakh to 2 lakh. But if you talk of the expensive ones, a radar starts from 30 lakh upwards, even 45 lakhs or 60 lakhs. If you talk of endoscope, then 6 or 7 lakhs rupees is the cost of endoscopy machine. If you talk of infrared camera, then the Indian ones start from lakh, 1,50,000, but not very accurate. The imported ones, they start from 3 lakh to 5 lakhs and things like that. So each equipment will have different costs, but if you really want to start with the basic 4-5 equipments, then the cost will be, so if you're talking of a half cell potentiometer, you're talking of a Smith hammer, one ultrasonic, one radar and one cover meter. A set of 5 will cost you less than 5 lakhs, you know, about between 4 and 5 lakhs.
Thank you, sir.
Pleasure. सर आपण म्यूट वरती आहात.
Yes, sir. Deepak Rajwat sir. I think you raised the question, raised the hand. Do you want to ask the question?
Sir, can you provide your cell number, please? Chetan sir.
That's an interesting question. Yes, my number is 98200
Okay.
28
Yeah.
335.
Thanks a lot, sir.
98 228 335. This is my WhatsApp number also. मी जर उचलला नाही तर मला व्हॉट्सअप करा, मी मीटिंग संपल्यावर जरूर परत फोन करेन.
Okay, sir. I will contact you, sir.
अगदी हक्काने करा.
So I think, sir, there is no question. So we'll go for the last point regarding vote of thanks. So I request Utkarsha to offer a vote of thanks.
Thank you.
Hello. Hello, Madhav sir.
हाँ sir.
So I will continue.
Hello.
With vote of thanks. I will continue vote of thanks.
Yes, yes.
Okay, oh, sir. So we are at the last point of this today's webinar. So I thanks to ISSC chairman for organizing this wonderful session, especially Shantilal Jain sir, chairman of the ISSC, of course my friend Madhav Chikodi sir for a very wonderful and informative sessions. So thank you very much, sir. Also, I thanks to Chetan Raikar sir, actually who is very busy. I like his this thing, his social the work that is he is taking only ₹1 for a and for that wonderful work. And in spite of the busy schedule, he's handling his one company also a lot of work, even though he spare time and share his valuable experiences about this. And the presentation given is a very excellent one. So there is no doubt about that. So thank you, sir, once again. Also, I thanks to all the participants who also spare to listen this particular the lecture. So before to close, I thanks to all one in all. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So
Thank
with
you,
the
Chetan.
yes, with the permission of the chairman, I said that the today's webinar is over. Yes, sir.
I hope all students have enjoyed the lecture.
Yes, yes, sir.
And it was good gesture from Chetan sir's side that he is making available his laboratory for students learning and training.
So this is an opportunity.
Bombay also, Bangalore also, and Pune also. All the three locations we have got a good set of NDT equipments, and please do contact us. We will definitely.
I think
work it out.
We should make benefit out of it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
So ISSC created a great platform to the college, our college also. So before, because of the ISSC, we could able to connect your company. So definitely after this pandemic situation, with my friend Madhav sir, will definitely think about this particular visit.
Okay, Zarur, yeah.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay,
Yeah.
bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye,
Yes,
everybody. See you.
bye. Okay. Sir.
Thanks a lot, sir. Thanks a lot.